So this is going to be a gentle flow on this Sunday morning that is a little rainy, a little windy, and maybe the sun will come out. So we're going to just guide ourselves just slowly through some of the poses and hold them a little longer, but it still will be a flow, and it'll be gentle enough for some of those aging bodies and some bodies that are just might be struggling with recovery, or just maybe beginning with the yoga journey or the fitness journey. So let's start in child's pose. And so if you want to have a block nearby, blocks are, yoga tools, not anything to be, not a sign that you can't do it. It's not a sign of weakness. Actually, you can get into a yoga posture much better if you have a block and allow a little bit more opening. And also signifies a little bit of humility sometimes. So right now my knee is still struggling with me a little bit. So I'm going to use a block and put it up on this height and just come into child's pose. And of course, if you're not familiar with child's pose, you want to have your knees just a comfortable distance apart and just kind of fall forward, allowing your ribs to relax over your thighs. And so you can extend your hands out like this, or you can place your hands behind you and allow your forehead to really drape and allow the cascading of blood to just kind of fall into the mat. And then you deepen your inhale, feeling the breath go all the way down into the diaphragm so that it kind of pushes your organs against your thighs. So you should feel the expansion of the belly into your thighs as your ribs and torso overall expands. And if you're in the practice of setting intentions for this practice, you can go ahead and do so. That's not necessarily a practice for me because the intention overall is to continually be mindful of where you are in this moment. And so we have this idea that a future aspiration might arrive in this yoga mat, but instead we can just allow the mind to come into this present moment as we deepen the breath and just start to feel the body's cues of what is too much and what is not enough. And if you're practicing at home, you'll probably have many distractions, such as a Shih Tzu, just waking up. And you welcome that into your practice. Just knowing that even if you have a certain activity that you planned or a certain assignment, work situation, it's always going to be met with distractions. And so our yoga practice is a sort of practice in how we respond to these distractions. So it's always tuning into what is going on every breath with every movement. So now let's come on to all fours. And just kind of do some hip circles here. You can even, make it seem like a hula hoop if possible. Or you can maybe make some figure eights. And you go at your particular speed and move the block out of the way. I'm just going to notice, just take an idea of, what's your hips feeling like right now. So my hips are kind of tight, even though I really didn't do a very hard workout yesterday. But stress often gets in the way of having those supple hips that we long for. And stress hides deep into your hips sometimes. And then press in with your fingers and just get a wrist warm up by pressing your fingers and then lifting your wrist. So I'm just kind of doing a little bit of a popping. And activating the muscles in the forearms. And maybe do some circles around the wrist as you plant the wrist. So just a few, just not too much, because we don't want to make it a wrist workout. We're not going to be doing arm balances, at least not this morning. I know I've injured my wrists without a proper warm-up. Maybe turn the wrist around, just get a little bit of a stretching on the inside of the forearms. You're still swaying the hips back and forth and maintaining that inner tranquility that the breath can give you. And the breath is sometimes a cue of how you're pressing too hard. And sometimes your jaw is an idea of how much you're clenching to getting to a certain degree of a pose or holding on. And that's a cue of asking yourself, is it time to let go? So let's activate the core here. And so want to draw the right hip back, the right leg back, and see if you can draw it parallel to your floor, your mat. And then you can kind of play around with putting your fingertips of your left hand onto the mat. Just see if you can find the balance here, or you can extend the left arm straight. Now notice what happens. The lower back wants to arch. See if you can straighten that up by pulling your hip points together. Or maybe imagining there's a line from the top of your ribs or the bottom of your ribs to your belly, and trying to tighten that rope, that line. And keep breathing. Feel the extension in the back of the leg. You probably feel your glutes engage a little bit. This is also part of your core. Keep breathing and then relax. Come back to center. Just maybe do a few more hip circles here. Now the other side. So start with the leg.
Just plant your right knee onto the mat and then extend your left leg behind you. Plant the hands. You want to do you want to try to get your, I'm sorry, my brain isn't working. Do a retraction or a protraction. I'm trying to remember the word. But basically, you want to dome the upper back. And extend. Just feel the extension in the top of the hip as you extend the left leg back and then extend the right arm in front of you. Press in with your left hand, your left fingers, to try to get a little bit of engagement in the shoulder. Just feel the core stabilize here. Remember, drawing in the hip points. And then release, relax. So this is protracting, right? As we pull the shoulder blades apart, and then retracting, I think. I'll get it. Again, so that we floss our shoulders by just kind of feeling the shoulder blades moving away from each other as you push the mat away and then towards one another. And just that feels a little bit of shoulder engagement and opening, just a little bit more mobility in the shoulders. Again, it's been a while since I've... All right. So let's just feel what it's like to maybe tuck the toes and feel the bottom of your feet get a nice stretch here. So, you can pulse a little bit, but just notice if your plantar tendons on the bottom of your feet might be aching a little bit. Or maybe that pain is in your heel or your Achilles tendon. So we know where your Achilles tendon is. And maybe you can try to sit back onto your tucked toes, onto your calves, and just notice how this feels as a Shih Tzu is staring at you. I'm not playing with you right now. So we're not going to sit up just yet. That's going to be another practice. And let's come back and just untuck the toes. And then just come on to your bellies from here. Okay, let's wake up the chest. And we also want to activate the back side of the body. So plant your hands so they're just below your armpits. So again, I'm not finding my words very well this morning. I am still not quite awake. So imagine your elbows are just kind of working behind you, and just feel the opening in your chest here. Plant your pubic bone into the mat. So your pubic bone, you should know where that is. So plant that, and you should feel your butt engage a little bit. And then press in with your toes. So this is just like a little baby cobra here, but don't allow your hands to do the pressing. Lots of times we press, but then we don't get the back engagement that we need. So we make our arms do everything like it's a push-up rather than letting the back body do the opening. Charlie, please stop. No, off. and then come back down. And then just wiggle out your feet. Just feel the blood just kind of returning, just a little bit of relaxing. Let's see if we can do this again. So let's bring the chest up. So just notice the core muscles. So the front, just your hip points underneath you are engaging to stabilize you. And then your glutes are also helping your chest open up. So again, if you feel that you're pressing in with your hands, maybe lift up your hands. And that might mean just coming down a little bit. But see if you can just kind of float and feel what it's like to extend. Just feel what it's like to really pull on all the back muscles in your core. And then release. You can come onto one cheek. And you can maybe windshield wipe your knees back and forth. So again, we're just doing this kind of slow, because the key is feeling your body through these poses that are so familiar, but may not be familiar in terms of all the engagement that occurs when we move slow. So let's press up into a downward facing dog. So you can come into child's pose first. And if your feet are just kind of floating way off, your heels are floating way off the mat, you can maybe come to a little closed downward facing dog. And with downward facing dog, we can sometimes feel a little too much pressure into our wrists. And this is where we really want to press in with the knuckles of your hands to get your forearms engaged. And that's going to help you build strong arms and a strong engagement of the whole body rather than dumping everything into your wrists. And then press the mat away with your hands and maybe feel the extension in your shoulders. So feeling your shoulders just open up a little bit. And then you feel your tailbone lift to the sky. You'll have a neutral spine here. And then your feet are planted solidly into the mat. And just notice if your heels are planted, notice the hamstring and the calf stretch here. So then let's walk our feet to our hands and just do a couple of sun salutations. But before we do that, let's just kind of shake out the hips one more time here. And just like a rag doll, let's just kind of slowly come on up. Just slowly come up, especially when you've been facing down for a long time. When you come up too fast, it can be very distracting. Not distracting, it can be very overwhelming for your body. You can sometimes pass out. I know for myself, I've been very lightheaded when I come up too fast. So let's do just a couple of quick sun salutations. even though there's no sun outside. So plant your feet. Feel the anchor in your feet. Feel the core, the hip points coming together, and just the top of your ribs and your belly button, just feeling that line. Just getting a little bit smaller as you feel the core engage. Sweep your arms up overhead. Inhale. And exhale, just kind of fall forward. And just feel the extension in your legs. Just feel the stretch in your hamstrings. Inhale, just come halfway up. Just kind of press the torso away from you. And exhale, fall forward. And step back into plank. So we've already done a little bit of a cobra, so let's come down onto our knees and just lower into a downward push-up. And then inhale, press in with your tips of your toes, the top of your pubic bone. And then exhale, come back down, tuck your toes, just peel up, come into a downward facing dog, maybe taking a detour, maybe taking a child's pose on the way. And so from here, just notice that my heels aren't touching. And that's fine, because we're just gonna just take a couple of breaths here and just kind of pulse a little bit. And then let's step the feet back to the hands. Let's do a few hip sways here. And then you can plant your hands on the floor. You can plant your hands on your calves. You can plant your hands at the top of your hips. Inhale halfway. Feel the core engage here, flat back. And exhale, fall forward, bending the knees. Inhale, come on up with a flat back, best as possible. Open up the hands, open up the chest. Inhale. Exhale, fall forward again. Inhale, halfway lift. Again, just place your hands wherever it feels good. Feel the extension in the spine. Exhale, fall forward. Plant the hands, step back into a high plank. Just stay here for just a second. Feel the engagement here. Pressing in with your knuckles of your hands. Feel the core engage, strong core. And then bend the knees. Just lower all the way down. Open up the shoulders. Inhale. Come into a beautiful, strong cobra. Feeling the elbows pulling back. And then come back down. You can peel up, go through child's pose, and then extend the hips up to the sky, legs extend. I like to pedal the feet as the hips begin to wake up a little bit more. And then let's step the feet to the hands. Inhale, flat back, halfway up. Exhale, fall forward. Inhale, best as possible, flat back. Sweep the arms up overhead. Open the shoulders, open the chest, arms reach overhead. Exhale, float, fly into a forward fold. Soften here. Inhale, that halfway lift. Feel the extension in the spine. Exhale, plant the hands, step back. Come into your plank. Feel the engagement here, pressing in with your knuckles, with your hands. Feel the core engage. squeezing the legs together. One solid stick here. And then plant the knees. Open the shoulders, lower slowly. Extend the legs behind you, so just kind of walk the hips far back. Roll the shoulders open, inhale, press up, open the chest. Just feel the pubic bone pressing in with the mat, opening the shoulders. Maybe fly your arms. This is where we get a little bit of intensity here. And then come on to your belly again, your chest. Plant your hands. Come back into a child's pose. Tuck the feet. Press up into a downward facing dog. Now from here, we're going to do a little bit of a change. Sometimes we do a lunge, but we're going to do a different type of a lunge. So come back into plank, draw the knee into your right wrist. This is your right knee into your right wrist, and then just kind of plant it here. And then plant the opposite heel into the mat, just kind of squaring it with the back edge of your mat. And then so your front right hand, just kind of plant it so it's above your right shoulder and just open up here. This is where I wish I would put my hair up. And just feel this right here. So I like versions like this. I remember doing this on a stand-up paddleboard. Just feel this opening right here on the inner thigh. And feel the opening in the opposite shoulder. And remember to press in with your right hand. So again, we forget that all the different muscles and tendons are all working together to keep you stable here. And don't forget your core. Planting the outer blade of the left foot into the mat and feel the extension. Just feel all this extension here on the top of your left hip. And maybe open up the chest a little bit more. And then plant the left hand down, turn onto the back toes. So it's probably a pretty decent opening there. And then step the right knee back, the right foot back into a downward facing dog. Remember to press in with the knuckles of the hands to really activate your forearms so they are bearing the weight and not your wrists. So let's come back into plank, bend the left knee, and just kind of plant it a safe distance so that's comfortable for you. And then come on to the outer blade of the left or the right foot. And then the left hand is going to be placed just below your left shoulder, and just feel the opening first. Pressing in with the left knee, just feeling the opening of the inside of the left thigh. And then sweep the right arm overhead. And feel like somebody is pulling your right hand, your right fingers. So feel that pulling there, but also pressing in with the right blade, the outer right blade of the foot, right foot. So there's a pressing there and extending with the right arm here. And then pressing in with the left hand and pressing the left knee into the mat. And maybe opening up here. And you might feel this in your biceps. And then come back down. Come onto the back toes. And then step back into a downward dog. And we want to take a break by planting our feet, just walking our feet towards our hands and just getting a nice forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Feel the extension in the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. We're going to do another version of what we just did, except this time it's going to be like a lunge, but it's going to be a knee down lunge. So step the left foot back. So we're going to work with the right leg first. So step the left leg back and just come into a nice little lunge. You can tuck your toes of your back foot if you'd like, or you can untuck them and feel so if you get your left hip and your knee in line with one another, you might feel a really nice stretch in the top of the thigh. And if this is too much for your knee, you can roll your mat or you can grab a little towel. So one of the poses that I can no longer do is saddle. And this is really kind of like a single leg saddle because it's more like a single leg camel. So you're allowing the hip to open rather than dumping it into your lower back. So it's a beautiful hip opener on the left side. And then let's play around with a version of Warrior Two. So Warrior Two is typically standing. We're going to do this version kneeling because it actually can still engage the front thigh. So you want to draw the left shin parallel with the back of your mat and then come back up. And now you're coming into like a version of Warrior Two. And so you can still get that beautiful hip opening on the left side, and maybe even your butt is going to engage. So imagine if we were standing, a lot of people say, well, this is too much. But with this, we can play around with just the opening first. And so you might even be able to get your thigh parallel with the floor. And so Warrior Two is typically done like this. If we're doing it kneeling, I like to place the back of my hand on the back of my, just right above my butt, my lower back, and just feel this. And then maybe open up the chest. If you really want to do Warrior Two arms, try it by opening the palms to help open up the shoulders, because so many times we get too compressed into our shoulders as we use our digital devices, work on laptops and such. So we get too compressed in the shoulders, and this version of warrior two encourages that, but if we open up, we might get this opening in the shoulders. Or we can just play around with just stretching. So this is an internal rotation of the shoulder, but just getting this stretch like we would in cow face pose. And then just maybe lean over your right thigh. So now you might feel a little bit of engagement in the right thigh. Press onto the heel and just feel the engagement there. Maybe press into the toes, like you're lifting your heel. And maybe try to pull the foot towards you. I mean, you're not going to, but just feel the engagement in the thigh when you're doing these subtle movements while you're still stretching through this front leg. And just feel the opening in this posture. Whew. All right, so let's unwind here. You can use your hand to help guide your back knee into its other position. And since we're here, let's maybe flirt with a pigeon pose. And so this is where you can use your block to prop up your right hip. Okay. So just maybe have it there as a something handy, and just kind of walk the right toes, heel toe, the right toes away from the right side toward the left, and just kind of set the hip down. And so notice that you can be a lot more upright if your hip is propped. So one version of pigeon is falling forward, but let's see if we can get a little bit more extension into the back leg by just starting off upright. And even if your shin isn't parallel with the front of your mat, don't feel bad if your hip is more like, or your shin is more like this. Just feel, without torquing the knee, just play around. Again, if you've got that block, it's going to help. Just start up, just sitting up for a moment. So a lot of engagement in the outer hip of the right side. And so lots of times when you go too far into a pose, your body actually responds by contracting. So that's why you want to ease into the pose until your body says, okay, this is fine. And then go a little bit deeper if that's available to you, but don't force yourself into the deepest part of the stretch. So then I invite you to kind of come onto your forearms, your hands. Just feel the difference when you fall forward. You get a nice little stretch in the back. And so sometimes your hip unwinds enough so that you can remove the block. But don't feel that you have to do that. Just feel this beautiful hip release. So we're opening the hip on the one side, the left side, but on the right side, we're releasing some of that tension that resides in our thighs, your hamstrings, and your outer hip. And just notice if there's just any tension in the other parts of your body. What is contracting? and just invite it to release. All right, let's walk our hands up and just bend the knee towards you. I like to just fall onto my right side just to make it a little bit more easier on my knees and my hips. And let's come back into a child's pose. A little pop, snap, crackle, pop. So let's tuck the back toes and then raise the hips into a downward facing dog. Notice the crackling in my feet. So let's do the left side. So I'm going to turn myself around here so you can see me. Let's do the left side. And let's come into a kneeling lunge. And just feel this. Just get a feeling for what the right hip is doing here. So the back toes can be tucked or they can be on the floor. And just notice if one side is maybe a little bit more tense. So I notice my left side is always a lot more tense, which tells me that there's a lot of imbalance, and that imbalance can come into the rest of your life and manifest as back pain somewhere. To just feel the opening. So like you're doing a saddle or a camel. So you're not leaning forward. You're actually just kind of sitting up, keeping the top of your right hip over your knee, and just without dumping into the lower back, see if you can open up into the thoracic spine while also opening into your right hip. So again, if it's too intense, then you just want to back off a little bit. Just say, okay, well, or maybe you can just play around. Just maybe go to like a 4 or 5 intensity and then back off to like a 1 or a 2 and then go back again. And sometimes it's just a matter of like a millimeter or a centimeter. So I liked spending a lot of time in these types of lunges because so often we do, these versions and we don't spend enough time in them to really activate all the muscles and really feel what's going on in these poses and let them heal us rather than rushing through them. All right, so you can use your hands here. I'm going to grab my block. You can use your hands here to kind of like draw your shin to parallel with the back side of your mat. And then just come into that warrior 2. And so in terms of alignment, it really is a matter of what's comfortable for you. So you can see if you want to have more of a wide stance in terms of how far apart your hips are. I'm talking about like the width of your mat, or you can maybe see if you can align the front of your knee with your front heel. So that's just a matter of preference. But whatever you do, see if you can get your thigh to parallel and look down at the front of your toes. What's really more important is being able to see your front big toe. And feel the tugging of the muscles of your inner thigh. It shouldn't be straining, but just like a gentle, like little tug. And just, you can play around with the warrior two opening in the shoulders. You can bend the knee a little bit more. You can play around with opening the shoulder, just stretching the front of the shoulder. So this side is a little bit more friendly by opening. So you place the back of the palm on the lower back and just notice just a little bit of a tugging when you rotate your shoulder a little bit. And just notice if you press more into the front toes, what happens? What engages? And what happens when you press in with the heel? Notice that subtle change. And see if you can press equally into the mat and maybe try to pull the heel towards you, or push the foot away from you. Just those little subtle actions just kind of test the mobility of your body. And I don't remember if I did it on this side. If I didn't, I apologize. But you can come into a side angle. Just feel the opening of the top arm. Pressing down with the left foot. You're still opening the right hip. See if you can spread your arms even wider. And let's just revolve around here. And then bring your shin, your shin back to parallel with a long edge of your mat. And then just heel toe your foot off to the right edge of your mat. And just let the left knee fall. Keeping the front foot flexed to kind of protect your knee, and just tuck the block, if you have it, or a pillow underneath your left hip. And let's start upright. And just notice how the front of the right thigh is opening here, and the side, the outer part of your left hip is getting a nice little tug. And I find that a block rather than a bolster is really handy for this posture, because it almost serves as like a foam roller. One that's not moving, of course. So there's a part of your IT band where one of the muscles attaches that gets really, really tight for runners. And we focus so much on the IT band rather than that attachment on the IT band. And depending upon where your block is on your hip, you can actually feel where that attachment is, because you're gonna get a sensation there that you might not feel if you had a bolster or a pillow. Okay, so let's fall forward. And just notice how the back just kind of loves this kind of release. So we have this back bend in a pigeon that feels really, really good, but then the forward bend also feels good in pigeon. And I'm kind of rolling a little bit like a foam roller onto my block, and just feeling just what wants to let go. And I just noticed that my right quad was tensing up, so I let that go. And so if you're on your elbows, just come up onto your hands. Just fall over to your left side. Draw your foot back towards your body and just remove the block. And let's stay here in our seated posture. And we already did some hips, but let's just do a nice little different version of cobbler's pose. So cobbler's pose typically done with your heels really, really close to your groin. And that might be for you. Let's see if we can make it a little bit further away from us. It's like a diamond pose in yin yoga. And just see if we can just, with an arched lower back. So we want to do a little bit of a baby back bend like we did in cobra. And just notice what happens when we just fall a little bit forward. So the yin version, you literally do come into a forward fold. But let's see what happens if we just open the shoulders like this, extend the spine. So ground through your sit bones, extend through the top of your head, and then feel your core stabilize you as you get a little bit of a back bend, just a very slight back bend as you come forward. So it's a little bit more active than the yin version of this, but it's a little bit more passive than the yang version of this pose. So if you pull onto the shins, so I have my palms facing down, you pull onto the shins, bending your elbows and resting them on the top of your thighs, pulling, you should feel some engagement in your upper back. And then you feel a little bit of a back bend occurring here. So this is building a little bit of a strength, but also just playing around with just that subtle but stable back bend. And now as a counter pose, just release the arms and just now we fall forward into the forward bend, so allow the lower back to arch. But again, we're not going to go full forward. So don't feel that you need to touch your forehead to your feet. Although if that happens naturally without pain, then by all means do that. Even though we're kind of crunched into a forward fold, see if you can extend the spine, engage the core, so feeling the hip points drawing together to stabilize you. And then let's come on up. Remove any dog toys that may have arrived on your mat. And let's come onto our backs now. And as you roll onto your back, draw your right knee into your chest. And as you draw your right knee into your chest, extend the heel of your left leg. Just feel like somebody's tugging at your left leg, trying to make it longer as you pull harder onto your right knee. So you should feel an extension into the left hip, but a flexion in the right hip. And now take the left hand and place it on the outside of the right knee and just allow it to fall over to your left, and opening the right arm like a wing. And you decide if you want to move your head over to the left side or the right. If your right shoulder doesn't reach down onto the mat, that's fine. Or you can just extend the right arm overhead. That allows you to fall a little bit more over to the left. Or you can work on opening the shoulder on the right side, which is what I need. So just as your mind is with distractions, just notice, my dog was very distracting at first. And draw the right knee back in to the center of your body. Just give it one more tug. And now let's swap. So bring the left knee in. Just maybe do a little bit of a spinal release by just kind of wiggling your hips back and forth. And then draw the left hip in, just grabbing the shin, extending your right leg straight, and just feel the extension. So like somebody pulling your right leg away from you. Not too much of a strain. You might feel your quad engage. And to just see what it feels like to have these polar opposites going on. So the left side is in flexion and the right side is in extension. And then the left hand on the outside of your left knee. And then opening your left arm like a wing. Just let the leg fall over. So again, this is where my left shoulder is still a little bit cranky. It's getting much better. So again, my dog's not necessarily this one that's on the couch, but the younger one is, always so looking forward every time I place my mat down on the ground because he thinks that it's time to play. And so he is very distracting. And so sometimes when we sit into a meditative state, or we try to sit alone and try to just allow ourselves a little bit of calm, the mind thinks, oh, it's time for me to play. Time for us to sort out all the mess in our lives. But then when we focus on just what we need to do right now in this moment, just don't allow the distractions, don't feed the distractions. So if I threw the toy, then that just told my dog, like, okay, she does want to play. So we don't give our mind a toy to play with. And eventually the mind will just kind of give up and allow you to do the more introspective and calming activities. So just like I'm teaching my dog not to disturb me during my yoga practice, we can train the mind not to get too overactive in our more calming practices. So let's draw the right knee back to the midline. Give it one more squeeze, and then bring the right knee back into, and do one more spinal release, just kind of rocking the hips. You just maybe do some figure eights, just circles with your knees if that feels good. And then place your feet onto the mat, and then maybe give one more goodbye stretch by drawing your belly in. And you notice that the lower back pulses, basically presses into your mat. Just notice the core engagement here. And you inhale, release, and just find the arch again, maybe over arch. And then do it again. Just see if you can press in the lower back into the mat, feeling the core activate. That is your stabilizing muscles that need to be engaged, especially when you are engaged in movement, and how easily it falls asleep if we're not aware. And then release and just extend the legs. And let the feet flop open and the arms flop open. As you settle yourself for a few moments, feel the feet just kind of feel heavy. So no straining and keeping the feet on the ground. They just surrender to gravity. And then the calves. You can let go of the calves. The knees. The thighs just kind of drape open. So just any sort of tension, just allow it to surrender into your mat. And feel your hips, all those muscles around your hips that we engaged and we stretched and flexed and moved. See if you can just say, okay, it's time for you to pause. And then we move up to the belly. So many muscles in our belly that work to stabilize all of those organs without our even thinking about it. Just letting them just take a moment to relax and do it as natural. Notice your ribs. Just notice how they expand with every inhale. They actually grow, and then how they contract on the exhale. And they expand not only in front of you, but on the side of you and behind you. So they expand in 3 dimensions. By opening our bodies, we open up the breath, open up that prana. And then the shoulders also hold a lot of our tension. Just allow them to drop and be held by the safety of the floor and of your mat. And don't forget about your neck and your head. They hold tension too. Just allow a little bit of surrender. So if you have a few more moments, you can put this on pause and stay a while. But for those of you who are maybe hungry, or maybe have some place that you need to go, and just take a deep breath and maybe invite some gentle movements in your body, such as wiggling your fingers, toes, or maybe moving your head, or like I'm doing, scratching my ear. And then reach your arms way overhead and feel like somebody is just kind of pulling you from your head to your toes, like a Flex Armstrong. And then relax and come onto one side, like you're just gently awakening from a nap. So again, anytime you're down on the ground for a while, it's very important not to just get up very quickly, because then you're going to have a very quick change in blood pressure, and sometimes that can be overwhelming. And take your top arm and press that into the floor and come into a seat. And just notice maybe any changes in your state of mind, maybe notice any changes in your body. So much of our life is about going fast, going hard. But lots of times we miss out on the subtleties of the moment. So slowing down our practice and staying in that intense moment, and finding that edge and knowing where that edge is great for our yoga practice, but it's also great for knowing where that edge is in our lives, so we don't go too far into our lives to the point of exhaustion. So wherever you are on this rather rainy morning, for me, you take care of yourself. And the light that shines in me, I honor that same light that exists in all of you. If we just let that light shine. And take care.